Today, let's bring in Ryan because we are going to be talking about the book, The Entrepreneur's Secret Weapon. And not only, Ryan, do you have the book, get it in frame here, and but you also have a podcast. And so, chicken, egg, tell us, well, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself, and then we're going to get into it here.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Ryan Cote. I'm from New Jersey, married for 15 years, three daughters. I've got two businesses going on right now. I work with my family at a company called Ballantine. We're a marketing agency. I run the agency with my two brothers and my uncle. And then I've got Morning Upgrade, and that's where the book comes and the podcast. I started Morning Upgrade in April of 2020, and it started out just as a blog, and then I added a podcast, and then I added morning routine cards, and now the book. And I'm just slowly evolving the brand, kind of just it's all new for me, so I'm just kind of just playing with things and seeing what works, and just having fun trying to put out really good content around personal development and morning routines.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's so April 2020. Of course, that's a month after the world changed back
Yeah.
in March. So it was a good time to write a book. I know I published one myself right about the same time. And but the so the book, the podcast, and one of the important things that happened when the lockdown came down, March of 2020, was people's routines were disrupted. So we were used to getting up in the morning, going through our routine, getting in the car, driving to work. And then, of course, a lot of routines changed. But I don't think people really realized that a big part of the stress that they were feeling was that it was a break in their routines.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So I'm big into morning routines, and I've had one for uh, going back to 2017. And when the whole shutdown happened, quarantining at home with three kids, trying to do remote learning and all of that, yeah, I let myself get out of my routine. I stopped doing my morning routine, and that put me in a serious funk. And I think,
Mm.
it's habits and routines. They are very important. And even like, me and my family will do road trips. And this last one we went on, same thing. I let myself get out of my normal routines just because it was hard, but that's just an excuse, and it put me in a funk again. And so habits, routines, morning routines, they're all very, very important in my opinion.
Yeah. So, and I want to get into some of the specific things that you do. And in the book, I'm just going to tell people that this is one of those. It's something that you're actually gonna. I would recommend that you like keep this near your desk or put it in your backpack, your bag, or whatever it is, because as you're going through, there's all these like little great tips, and at the end of each chapter, there's a chance to kind of uh, write out your takeaways. Let's get that on the screen there, and so you can actually write stuff down that are specific to you. So this is really can be a personalized handbook. But let's talk about routines, habits, and some of the differences because uh, we often use those words interchangeably, but I don't think they're really interchangeable. There's some different concepts.
Yeah, I never really thought of it, but I guess you're right. Habits are more things that you do without really like brushing your teeth. You do it without even really even thinking about it. Whereas routine is something that is like a process that you follow every day. Like my morning routine. I know I get up and I take my cards and I meditate and I do all of that, and that's a routine that I try to stick with every day. I'm on 4 months straight right now, so gotta have a good streak going. Try not to break it. And so, yeah, that to me, that's the difference between habits and routines. Habits, something you do without really even realizing, like brushing your teeth, whereas routine is more like a process, like the morning routine.
Yeah, yeah. It's I also have highlighted in here a book, Atomic Habits. It's one of those ones that you've mentioned this
Yeah.
in your book, James Clear's Atomic Habits. And I'll just throw out to everybody too that we're also both in the same mastermind group. And and reading books is one of the things that we've done. And this was one of the books that came through the mastermind, and I was really glad to have read it. Because we do talk about these habits, and one of the comments that you mentioned in there is habit stacking. Can you
Yeah.
kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. Atomic Habits, I think it's definitely worth reading. I know most of the people in our mastermind that read it, they talk about it, even though it's been a little while since we've read it. So yeah, habit stacking, as he describes it, it's like you're doing something already, and then what can you add to that? Like you're already brushing your teeth. What can you stack to that already existing habit that will help you? Using a real example, I mentioned this in the book, is so the way I meditate. Most people sit when they meditate. I like to lay down with like my arms to my side, like an open posture. It's just what I prefer. I like it better. And so after I meditate, I'm already down there on the ground, meditating. And so now I'll just do 20 20 sit-ups. So I'm stacking, and it might not seem like that much, but 20 times 30 times 12, it,
Hmm.
it adds up. And so I'm already doing the habit of meditating. I'm already on the ground, and I just stack the 20 sit-ups on top of the meditation. So looking for opportunities of like, all right, I'm already doing this. What can I add to this existing habit that will help me? That's what habit stacking is.
So that's pretty clever because as you're going through the meditation, you've actually put yourself physically into a position that makes it easy, so you
Yeah,
don't have to make that transition to exercise. So you
right.
complete one task or one habit, in this case, the meditation part of your routine, and then it's easy to just go, well, now I'm going to do my sit-ups and now I'm going to do my push-ups. I'm already in the position. That's really clever because um, there's an amount of inertia that we all have that we want to stay in whatever state that we're in. And so you put yourself into a state, into a condition that makes it easy.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing that James talks about in the book that I think is worth mentioning is when you're trying to create a habit, starting off with like the lowest amount of effort to start the habit, like the smallest amount of effort to create the habit. And so, like he says, if you're trying to go to the gym, you start with like a 2-minute workout, and then something that you can't say no to. It's such a small ask that you can't skip it,
Mm.
and then build it from there. Um, I take that like in my own morning routine. I just do 5 minutes of exercise and 5 minutes of meditation. The 5 minutes of exercise might be 5 minutes of burpees, and so it's tiring, but it's still only
Mhm.
5 minutes. And so it's why I can't skip the routine, because I have 5 minutes, of course, right? And then usually those 5 minutes of burpees, I'll do something in the afternoon too, because I've already got the habit going. I'm already in the mindset of working out. I've already got my body moving in the morning. And so it's starting off very small and then building up from there. He talks about that in the book. And I think that's an interesting concept. Also, if you because you go to the gym and then you let yourself slip for a few days, and that
Mhm.
slip becomes like a week, then 2 weeks and 3 weeks, because it's just like snowballs. And then he talks about, if you can't do your regular routine, just do a simplified version of it, and that way at least you don't break the chain of daily action with it. And so I think that's
Right.
another good takeaway, especially if you're on vacation, you can't do your full set of routines that you're used to doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the quotes that I got from James Clear in the book Atomic Habits was, "We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems."
Hmm.
And so this is a great time of year because January, whole new year, it's 2022. People are looking forward, so they're creating resolutions or they're deciding, I want to make some changes in my life. And so it's a great opportunity for them to get the entrepreneur's secret weapon and establish some routines and habits for themselves. The book is in the carousel, it's highlighted in the carousel. Add to cart, send it to yourself, send it to somebody that you know that is thinking about upgrading their life. You can be the hero by just sending them the book. The one of the things that I think about again is that we don't rise to the level of our goals; we fall to the level of our systems. That's the quote from James Clear. Is that we're setting these goals now, but if we don't put these systems in place, then we'll be like everybody else, or the majority of people who make New Year's resolutions, who set goals. But I forget what it is, but it's just a number of days, really,
Yeah.
that most people keep those resolutions. So You're really helping people create a system that will allow them to keep these commitments, these personal commitments.
I'm trying to, man. That's the whole that's the whole mission behind Morning Upgrade. I used to write on personal development on LinkedIn, and then, like I said, April 2020, I had the idea. Why don't I try to create a brand out of it and really try to make a go of, raising the awareness of personal development and morning routines. It's why I have the podcasts, because I bring on entrepreneurs talking about their routines, their morning routines, just trying to like plant seeds and give people
Mhm.
ideas that then they could take those ideas and apply to their own lives. And then the book, I tried to make the book. It's not it's not a big book. It's 100 pages, but it's chock full of tips and it's more or less just curated content that I've been consuming for the last 4 or 5 years with some of my own perspectives, sprinkled in. And then I'm hoping that people read it and they get a lot of takeaways that they can apply to their own lives. And that's really what I'm trying to do. Just you know, like I said, raise the awareness of personal development and give people ideas.
Well, I for one am grateful that you have made the book manageable. I don't need a 250 word
Yeah.
or 250 page book. I just get in there, give me the information I need to make the upgrades on my life. So you really talk too about there's different aspects. So it's not um, I don't know. It's not one thing. There's just a number of things that you look
Yeah.
at in the book and the reasons why you want to focus on these things. And you talk about entrepreneurs and interviewing successful entrepreneurs and what they do. What types of areas are they putting their focus on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I would say I keep on bringing up morning routines, but almost every guest I have on the show has a morning routine, and that's not because they're coming onto the morning upgrade. Like if they don't have a morning routine, I still will bring them on to the podcast because they still have other things they're doing, and there's other ways we can learn from them. But almost every single guest, with the exception of maybe two that I could think of in the 80 something episode or 70 something episodes that are live right now, have had a morning routine. So they're getting up in the morning and intentionally investing in themselves. And I
Mhm.
have some guests, like my morning routine is only 20 minutes. 20 minutes. It used to be longer. Now it's 20 minutes. It's packed with a lot of stuff in 20 minutes, but it's only 20 minutes. I have some guests that 2-3 hours where they're plunging into ice baths and reading for 45 minutes. You got to find what works best for you. Um, but almost every single guest has that morning routine, and then they have intentional habits that are guiding them through the day, whether that's reading or something similar. Exercising, of course. Exercising is a big thing too. It's something we all know, but it's sometimes easy not to do, and so creating that habit around exercise, even if it's just walking, getting the sunshine and going out for a walk, very beneficial.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. As we mentioned that we're both part of the Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind, and Aaron
Yeah.
Walker, who started this group and is the leader of it. He talks about his routine, and part of his morning routine is, of course, he does some reading. He drinks a cup of coffee, sits on the back porch, uh,
Yeah.
and then he also prays. He happens to pray, and he says, "Don't get mad at me," while he's in the hot tub. So there's some good habit stacking, right? I mean, this is like these routines that you set up for yourself. It's not like you have to plunge into an ice bath. If that's maybe
Yeah.
that is the right thing, but we're not saying that these things that you set up for yourself have to be painful or not enjoyable.
No, they don't. And one of the chapters is, get it right 80% of the time. 80% of the time. That's just my viewpoint on it. I'm sure others would argue against that. You need to be 100% all the time. I just try to get things right eight out of 10 times. Like I'll eat a salad most days, not every day, most days. Now, right now, I'm doing my morning routine every day, but there was a point where I was skipping here and there. But I try
Mhm,
to get it right 80% of the time, because I don't know, life, especially with kids and stuff, it gets in the way sometimes. And I sometimes find, like, with some of the routines that were shared on my podcast, like my brother, for example, he would say, "Oh, I can't relate to some of these morning routines that are like 2 hours long. It's very intimidating." And then I was like, "Oh, well, you don't have to do the 2 hour routine. That works for that person, but just try to
right.
get it right most of the time and fit it to your lifestyle and your goals." I like to think about, and this is, it's called the gap. It's not something I created. It's talked about on podcasts and like the Ed Milet show and some others. mentioned in a book too, and it's escaped me right now. But the gap is, um, like you're here, like that version of you is you're right here, and you want to get here, like the version of yourself, like the version 2.0, is like
Mm,
right here. And that gap, like how can we close the gap? And so I think for me, that's like what's the exciting thing about personal growth is like, what is my true potential? Like, what is your true potential? You're here, you want to get here inside that gap. That's what we have to close that gap. And so I like to think about that. And I think that's what excites me so much about personal growth because, um, it's fun trying to close that gap and see like what version of yourself can you be, impact others, the ripple effect. Like, if you show up differently to your wife, to your husband, to your kids, to your friends, to your coworkers, that's going to create a ripple effect. You may not see it right away. You might not even see it at all, but if you show up as a different person, it's going to create that ripple effect. And then hopefully you're influencing and impacting others. And that's a whole
mm.
nother thing I think about with Morning Upgrade. It's part of the mission.
Yeah, and I love the title. I'm going to put this back up on the screen and remind everybody we are talking with Ryan Cote, author of The Entrepreneur's Secret Weapon and how to use personal development to upgrade your life and your business, and also the host of the Morning Upgrade podcast. And you can click on those are available in the carousel. So it's really interesting how these little changes. So James Clear's book is really about making small changes, atomic changes, right? These little tiny things. And you're talking about you don't have to have a 2-hour morning routine, a 20-minute
Right.
routine, or maybe a 2-minute routine, something that moves you forward. And I was thinking about the different aspects of my life that I'm working on to upgrade, and
Mhm.
one of them is around diet, and you mentioned that in here, and I love the 80% rule because, try to eat clean and not overload on carbohydrates, minimize bread, pasta, that type thing. But hey, Monday night was the national championship football game, and so my son and I, we ordered pizza and had some specialty root beer because, hey, it's a special thing, and,
Yeah.
I didn't feel bad about it, and honestly, it didn't throw me off of my weight goals just that one time, but it was a great experience with my son.
Yeah, because you got to have fun. Like, not to get morbid here, but we don't know how long we have on this planet. And so, yes, I want to be the best version of myself, but I also want to have fun too. And so, yeah, I don't eat a lot of white flour, but I do like pizza. And so, we will have pizza usually once a week. And so
Mhm.
I think yeah, you got to have fun too. That's why we're here. Like, we're here to have fun. We're here to build relationships, create impact, work and all that. And so I think the fun, the play, that part of it is very important because if we're not having fun, what's the point, honestly?
Yeah, we got to enjoy the journey. I worked with a man that had some significant heart issues in his life and had heart surgery. And so people would come in with a box of donuts from the grocery store, and he'd pass because, why bother? Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that enjoyable, really. But if someone came in from the local bakery with some specialty pastry, well, absolutely. But don't eat a
Yeah.
box of them, but enjoy the one that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
So these are, yeah, it's again, just these 80%. And the book reads really well, and I love that you start the book off with a little summary. There we go. Find the right look there. You got a summary, and as you go through the book, there's these little tips about how to get started quick. And so
Yeah.
again, I'm recommending to everybody, just keep this book handy and use the little chapter takeaway page in the book and fill it in. I think, Ryan, you just came up with a great format for your book. Let's talk about the journey to write this book.
Yeah.
So you started the podcast and you
Yep.
decided you wanted to put it into a book format. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so yeah, the evolution's been the blog, and then I created the podcast maybe a month or two after, and I didn't want to do the podcast. I knew nothing about it, how to record, how to edit, like what do I do with it? But I just did a lot of research and eventually figured it out. And the truth is, it's not that scary. It's actually It's actually like, yes, having the consistency of doing the podcast is hard, but eventually you get to the point where you have a lot in your queue and it's just a matter of keeping up with it. I guess it's a
Mhm.
routine at this point, or habit. Um, and then, so was doing that for about a year. And then I was like, I've always had a goal of writing a book. Like if you ask my mastermind guys, like, yeah, they knew I wanted to write a book. I just never, there was never a topic that really spoke to me or that made a lot of sense to me,
Right.
or that I had passion to write about. And then, with as Morning Upgrade evolved, I was like, oh, this is it. It's got to be the book, especially because, as I work through what's called my purpose statement, like why am I here?
Mhm.
I've done a lot of thinking on it, and my purpose, as of right now, as we're speaking here, is I've got the marketing business and I've got the personal development morning routine business, both of them running parallel. But really, my purpose, as I see it, is to intertwine the two. Okay,
Mm.
so
Mhm.
try to excel at both, but intertwine them when possible and create more impact. What does that look like? Well, it looks like having clients on the podcast. So I've had a bunch of clients on the podcast. Um, I mail the book now to clients too, and so I'm trying to look for opportunities to interweave the two.
Mhm.
And so that's why I kind of needed the book. I needed the book as like the next step for Morning Upgrade. I needed the book to easily share this content with clients and to other people. And so I had never written one before. It wasn't, I mean, it's a lot of work, like writing it and then editing it. Yeah, the whole experience with KDP was pretty straightforward. It's funny because
Yeah.
you mentioned the chapter takeaways at the end. If you look at my book, it doesn't have that because when I published the book, I of course bought a copy because I wanted to get it in my hands, and I started reading it again, and then I was like, I should have chapter takeaways on the end of each so people can write in their notes. So I went to the KDP files, edited, uploaded, and now you have the new version. So this is just like it's like anything, just fine tuning and just figuring it out as you go along.
And just to remind everybody, KDP. So if you're interested, I will often say this is the greatest time ever to be alive because if you're like Ryan and you want to write a book, you go to kdp.amazon.com, set up an account, download the Kindle Create program, write your book. And then if you want to make changes, it's easy to make changes. Look, Ryan printed the book and got a copy of it and decided to make some changes, made changes right there. And 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 I have the upgraded version right here.
Yeah.
The entrepreneur's secret weapon. It is how to use personal development to upgrade your life and business. Um, and so are you using print on demand? Is that how that
Yeah.
works?
The
Yeah.
print on demand, though, I did find out that when the book starts selling, Amazon will print a bunch of copies because they want the inventory on file. That's the right word to use, so they can
Hmm.
satisfy Prime delivery. But so there was a little window where even though I had upgraded the book or updated it, the old version was still going out. But obviously that's over now because you've got the new version. Yeah,
Yeah.
like having impact and trying to create that ripple effect. I mean, I recommend that everyone at least look into, like, we all have something to share, even
Mhm.
though it's nothing, it might not be nothing new. It's not like personal development is anything new, but it's my take on it. It's my attempt at it. And so I encourage people to write a book. I mean, 100-page book, it takes effort, of course, but you can do it. And I always recommend, or urge people, I guess I should say, to write a book, try to create a blog, or share your knowledge and try to create impact. If we all did that, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, I love the print on demand. As I open up the very back cover of the book here, it's got this little barcode, and here it is, made in USA, Las Vegas, Nevada, 6th of January, 2022. Here it is, the 12th of January. So this book is
Yeah.
only 6 days old, and
Yeah.
I've got a copy of it. So yeah, I love that you've done that. You've kind of led the way. There's a benefit too of writing a book. So whether you have nonfiction, a fiction, or maybe it's a family history that you want to share, but
Mhm.
whatever it is that you write, the great thing is you'll always be introduced as Ryan Cote, author of, right, the
True.
entrepreneur's secret weapon, and your kids, grandkids will always be able to say, here's the book my grandpa wrote, right? It'll always be available once you've done that. So you're adding to your body of work. So Ryan, I congratulate you on making this big step.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. It was fun getting it in the mail. You always get Amazon packages when it's your book. Even my dad made a comment. He's like, I got an Amazon package because my mom had ordered it. Thanks, mom. But he opened it up and he's like, oh, and like it kind of took him by surprise. It's pretty cool. It's been a
Yeah.
fun journey.
I love this. It's a great thing. So I encourage people, get an account, set up kdp.amazon.com, set up, write a book. It doesn't have to be a long book, it can be a short book. I don't know what you have inside you. And then obviously you can make changes to it. Now let's talk about some of the specific things. Back earlier, you mentioned, and so if someone wants to write a book, I'm just going to say that start with this book, reading this book, and implementing these habits and routines, because that'll help you reach that dream of writing a book.
Right.
But you mentioned things like cards and stuff. Let's talk a little bit about some of the specific things that are part of your morning routine.
Yeah, so I've got well, actually, they're back there, but I'd grab them. But I've got a set of cards that I produce. It's a journal type product. It's called the Morning Upgrade Cards, and it leads you through a series of questions and prompts like what's your number one priority for today? What was your biggest win from yesterday? Who are you going to reach out to today to say hello or to recognize them for something, or maybe it's someone you haven't reached out to in a while. There's a small section for journaling, and then there's reminders to meditate and to exercise. And so it's front and back. It takes about 20 minutes to do. And so I literally get up and grab myself a thing of water and get the card, go down where it's quiet because everyone's still asleep, and I go in the basement and I just pen to paper. I just start filling out the card, exercise, meditate. I've been doing this new thing it's called a happy light. Like I have the happy light shining on me. That's supposed
Mm-hmm.
to help with like the UV rays. That's like a
Yeah, yeah.
weekend. Jury's still out, but I so far it's good. So I've got the happy lights shining on me. I'm filling out the cards. I'll often read too. Usually, I'm trying to make my way through a book right now, so I'll read. So it's about a 20-ish minute routine. That's what my mornings look like.
Well, these the lights. So those of us that live in the more northernly hemisphere, more northern areas, it gets dark early. I mean, it's
Yeah,
4:30, 5 o'clock. It's dark,
right.
and there is it's a condition, the seasonal affective disorder, SAD, and having lights like this, and uh, I should have thrown one into the carousel, but I encourage people. You can find right here on Amazon. You can find one of these lights that will help if it's dark, if you get affected because maybe you work inside and you don't get out into the sun, it can affect your mood. So this happy light sounds like a great, a great tool, Ryan.
I got it from one of my podcast guests. Yeah, I learned from them as well.
Yeah,
So that's my morning routine. Then I've got other things that I'll do throughout the day. Like I'll usually exercise beyond just the 5 minutes. I've got the Peloton. You can't see it. Oh, there you can. Yeah, now you can see it. Got the
there we go.
Peloton right
Okay,
there.
and
I'll
it's
go
not
for
covered with clothes, so that's good.
yeah, yeah, just my hat. But um, and so I'll go for a walk. Funny thing with exercise, sometimes you never know where it's going to come from. But we got one of my daughters the VR Oculus headset things, and I bought a boxing app. So now I'm downstairs boxing with the thing. It's a workout. You think it's a game, but I'll tell you that the next day after doing that, I don't think I was sore. I was more like on the borderline of injured. That's how sore I was. And so I've been sprinkling that into the exercise routine. So I just look for things to,
That's
you know,
nice.
look for
I
things to
found
move.
that with trampolines. Our friends had trampolines, for their kids, and so we go over and we're in the backyard picnic and get on the trampoline, and you think, "Oh, this is just kind of fun," and then you get off, and you're like, "Whew."
Yeah, That's a cardio workout. Yeah, one of my guests mentioned that. There's a name for it. Rebounder, I think they were saying. Yeah, it's like a little
Yeah.
trampoline. You just jump in place
Yeah,
like
absolutely. Yeah, my wife actually got one of those little, I don't know, tiny, looks like a size of a small rug, I guess, and
yeah.
nice. Not going to be doing flips on it, but yeah, just finding those little things that help you. Well, they're enjoyable. As we talked about, maybe using the hot tub as part of a morning routine, that's something you could get up and look forward to. And go ahead, you got some thoughts
No,
there.
that's a great no. I think you touched on something that's really a really good point. Is finding out what works best for you and what you look forward to. Like the VR Oculus boxing, even though it's a hard workout, it's something that is kind of fun in a strange way. And so
Hmm.
maybe it's playing basketball, maybe that's going for a walk, whatever that looks like. And speaking of walk, then you stack it with Audible, and so you've got self education and exercise, and so you got to find what works best for you. I think that's because friction in anything is not a good thing. Friction in
Hmm.
anything, whether it's friction with our clients, it's friction with trying to start a routine. It's just really hard to keep it going if there's friction. So you have to, and everyone's different. You have to find out what that looks like for you. That's going to be as frictionless as possible.
And so the routines that we talk about, the morning routine, talk a little bit about uh, maybe a midday routine, end of the day routines can also be uh, pretty powerful.
Yeah, yeah, and that's yeah, they call it like the bookends. You got the morning and the night. That's something I haven't. I mean, I do have a nighttime routine. It's with my daughter. So in the book, there's a chapter on injecting personal development into your workplace, and I can go through some of the things I do there. We go over
Hmm.
mindset, of course, but then there's injecting personal development into your kids, like or at least
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
introducing it to them. Because if you think about it, like I've got three daughters, 7, 9, and 11. They're not going to think about like mindset and meditation. Like you don't know what you don't know. So why would they even like
Right.
that would never even come across their
Right.
radar. And so
Yeah.
now what I do, it's really straightforward because again, friction, like, I don't want friction. I want something that we could do every night and then it's the compound effect of everything stacking. So
Hmm.
what we do as of right now is before they go to bed, we talk about one thing they're grateful for. I just actually made a change 2 days ago. We talk about what they're grateful for, but then we also talk about one thing that went well in their day. So I guess I'm
Mm.
gonna have to update the book, but this is new. One thing that went well in their day, the one thing they're grateful for, and then we'll read for 5 minutes, give or take, and that's it. And so just trying to, and sometimes like I've got like this Jim Rohn book and quotes, and sometimes I'll just sprinkle in
Mhm.
little life lessons. I think they're listening. I don't know, but they hear me. So just trying to create that kind of nighttime routine. That's what mine looks like. I don't have one right now where I focus on myself. It's more on my kids. But I think I'm glad you mentioned the nighttime routine because I think the bookends, morning and night is very important.
Yeah, it's for me. I have the kind of my morning time, and I miss it. If something happens, I've got to be up early to get somewhere, and I kind of miss
Mhm.
those steps. I always feel like I'm my day is like I'm on a treadmill that's going a little bit faster than what I'm running.
That's interesting. Yeah, I can see that because we rely on routines. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, so if my routine is if I get up and I do it and then I feel like maybe I'm in control of the day instead of the day running me. But also for me at the end of the day, one of the things that I do is I read every night. And
Mm.
it's kind of one of those things that I look forward to. And so I don't want to stay up until the last possible moment where I'm just like falling asleep. I look forward to getting into bed a little bit or maybe earlier and actually taking some time and reading, and I'm looking forward to it. And I read fiction and nonfiction. It just depends on what I feel like. Um, and sometimes I'll do both. Uh, and I know that it just for me, it just helps kind of wind down that day and say, this is it. This is the last. And before that, I'll also check my calendar the next day just to kind of make sure what I know is coming on. So these are a couple of things that I do at the end of every day that just help signal that this is the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and you look forward to it. Um, I heard someone mention on a podcast the other day that I was listening to. It was interesting with reading. I never thought about it. You made me think of it just mentioning it. Like reading, like we all have trouble focusing nowadays because of technology and smartphones and notifications and social media and all that stuff. So our focus, our attention span is shrinking. And he was saying that reading like a physical book it helps your focus because you can't do two things at once. You can't read and do something else at the same time. It's
Mhm.
you won't comprehend what you're reading. So when you're reading, it helps your focus. It's like almost like strength training for your mind or for your focus. I never really thought of it that way, but it's true. Like if you think about it, try reading for a long time, you're going to feel like you need to answer your look at your phone, check your email. Eventually, that goes away as your it's like meditation as your mind gets used to it. But
Hmm.
it's an interesting way to look at reading, like you're learning something, but you're also strengthening your focus. And now you have built it into a routine where you do it every night. You look forward to it, and so that's really key.
Yeah, I really didn't want, as I said, I didn't want my day running me. I
Right.
wanted to take control, and so Simon Sinek, and I should have put his book in there too. Start with Why. Simon Sinek has some great things to say about keeping your phone out of the bedroom. And as you said,
Yeah.
a lot of us use the excuse of, well, it's my alarm clock. So I went to Goodwill about 3 years ago, spent $2, bought a used battery powered alarm clock, and since then my phone doesn't go into the bedroom. It's not one of those things I'm wheeling through, loading my brain with a lot of stuff. I use I read a paper book like
Right.
Ryan Cote's The Entrepreneur's Secret Weapon. I hear.
Yeah, it's I think that's a yeah, getting I have the Whoop band so that it vibrates when I want to get up. But I to be truthful, I do have the phone in my bedroom because I have a sound machine that I listen to like a newborn.
Mhm.
But I could get a regular sound machine and get my phone off out of the room. So that's a good
Yeah, it's just one
prompt.
of those. For me, it just kind of removed the temptation because what I found was I wasn't reading books. I was
Mm.
scrolling through all the feeds before I go to sleep,
That's the worst.
and
Yeah.
so it was. I would say for me it was a big upgrade. Just like what you're mentioning here is how to use personal development to upgrade your life and your business. And this is one of the things that maybe as we kind of start to wind down here, Ryan, talk about. I believe that it's really a myth between this uh, life work balance, but that as beings we're wholly integrated. Now we can set boundaries, but certainly what goes on in our personal life affects our business. What's going on in business can impact our relationships.
Yep.
So let's get some of your thoughts on this and how habits and routines can help us
Sure.
upgrade our lives in those aspects.
Yeah, sure. And this is just my viewpoint, but I agree with you. I think true balance is really hard to have. Like if you're there's seasons of life, there might be times where, and that's why I mentioned here, like upgrade your life and business. To me, it's very intertwined. If your home life is a complete mess, it's really likely that your business is going to be um, in trouble as well. In most cases at least. And so it's really, it's yeah, like intertwined for me. Like
Mm.
I don't really balance is tough. Like there's seasons of everything. Like sometimes your business needs a little more attention. Sometimes your relationships need a little more attention. I think it's really starts with being aware of that balance. And so you can notice things like where, okay, you know what? I've been working too much. I need to like shut the computer down and focus on my kids or focus on
Mhm.
my wife or husband. So I think it really starts with being aware and being intentional. And it's not hard. I think we all struggle with it every day, but it's like, can you honestly say that you're aware of it? Are you being intentional? Um, are you setting things in place like date nights or lunch dates or time with your kids? Are you shutting your phone off at a certain time? At least trying to put processes in place that creates a little bit more balance.
Mm.
But don't be so hard on yourself because there will be times, like I said, where the focus needs to shift based on what's happening in your life. It's just the way it is. And so I don't think true balance, at least I haven't figured it out. I don't think it exists. I think it's more just like how can you structure your life where you feel like in general things are good, and that you're recognizing their seasons of life, and that's for me that's good enough. And I think about like fulfillment too. Like, do I feel like I'm fulfilled in my life? Do I feel like I'm doing things the best I can? That I'm living my purpose? Like these are all questions I like to ask myself, and just to keep myself heading in the right direction, course correct when needed, knowing that it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, it's boundaries are important, but
Yep.
realize that I mean, although we would like to be done at a certain time, sometimes there are things going on at work that might cut into what we would consider family time, but also there are family times that will cut into work, where you just say, it is more important that maybe you attend a some event that one of your daughters has at school, or one of their uh, extracurricular activities, and it's going to prevent you from having that meeting or doing that, focusing on that project at work, because you have to do both. And I
Yeah.
think as long as you have good communication, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's all about voicing expectations, right? If you don't share what your expectations are, then you really don't have a reason to complain. I know that with my wife and I, and just to throw this out there for folks, my wife and I in August will be celebrating 38 years of marriage.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
one of the ways that we did that is when we were in premarital counseling, we learned voice expectations. So if we come into a 3-day weekend, so we've got Martin Luther King weekend coming up, and this is a great time to talk about expectations. And I can tell my wife, okay, when we get to the end of this weekend, what do you want to look back on and say, this has happened? Well, it might be this or these projects, or I want to go to the coast, or, we would like to visit these people or whatever. And I say, well, I'd like to do this. And we got the, hey, it's the NFL playoffs. And, these are things that my son and I want to do. And then we can negotiate them out, rather than getting to the end of the weekend and looking back and going, well, I'm all upset at you and you're upset at me. Well, how come? Well, we didn't do this. And it's like, well, we didn't do that. It's like, yeah, but you didn't tell me that's what you wanted to do. So I have no right. If I don't tell my wife, I have no right to be upset.
Mm. Communication. It's huge. It's a great
Yeah.
point you made. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's oh, so good. Go ahead.
I'm just thinking, is it again, I love that you're talking about upgrading your life and your business, and that there's this integration in between them. So as we wind down, and how do people get a hold of you? And maybe I think bringing you in as a speaker to for their group or for their business, is that something that you're doing?
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, they can go to morningupgrade.com. Would love to connect with anyone if they want to talk about, personal development, even writing a book. I mean, I could talk about the whole process I followed with like the outline, and then trying to inject things that are a little bit different, just like my process that I went through, just to kind of brainstorm. Happy to talk about that, personal development, mindset, all that stuff. They go to morningupgrade.com. That's where they can reach out.
Best way to get a hold of you there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn too and all that, but you can start out by going to
Well,
morningupgrade.com.
that's great. And I think, are those links here in the book as well? Is
The domain name is, yeah, and actually
Yeah,
my
yeah,
email address is
perfect.
in here
So
too. Yeah, my
there it
email
is.
address.
There's contact information right here in the book. So the entrepreneur's secret weapon. Let me put the graphic up here again. So we got Ryan Cote, author of The Entrepreneur's Secret Weapon: How to Use Personal Development to Upgrade Your Life and Business. And a lot of these habits and routines, again, as we entered the lockdown, and now we're coming up on 2 years, uh, our former routines and habits were broken, and we had the chance to set those again. We're still continuing to go through changes. And so, Ryan, what's some of the final advice that you would like to give to people about how to upgrade their life and their business?
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I want to urge everyone to take their personal growth seriously. We're in a new year. Make this the year that you optimize and up level yourself. It doesn't need to be complicated. Start small. I would say one thing we didn't talk a lot about that I want to end
Yeah.
with is just mindset. It's such a
Mm.
huge thing. Really, like in the book, I say it's the small hinge that swings the big door. It really, like in between, like your head here, it's really, it's really key to get that under control. Meditation, how you handle challenges. Like I'm someone that naturally, doesn't like confrontation. I used to like run away from challenges for the most part, and I have a different viewpoint on challenges now. They're going to happen. I expect them. If you're in business or just in life in general, challenges will come. There's no question. It's how you react to the challenges. Looking at challenges as opportunities for growth is really important. And so don't run away from the challenges, accept them, and just try to strengthen your mindset, having like a resilient mindset, And part of the way you build that is honestly going through things. I talk about in the book, like my wife and I own some real estate, and we went through this problem with mold in one of their homes, and it was like,
Mm.
oh man, like I was going to bed with like pains in my stomach, literal pain in my stomach. But we
Wow.
got through it, and now like I'm a little bit stronger from that, because if it happens again, will I be stressed? Yes, but I've been through it, and I'm just now a little bit more equipped to handle the situations. So don't shy away from challenges; they do make you stronger. Um, and just be aware that mindset is a very, very important thing to improve and to focus on. And I will end with that.
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah, mindset. It it's kind of a squishy topic because it's we like in a lot of things we like mathematical things, right? Things that we can
Yeah,
add up. The bottom line, as they say. But the mindset is one of those things that you really need to start with, and it is here in the book, The Entrepreneur's Secret Weapon: How to Use Personal Development to Upgrade Your Life in Your Business. So here's the steps that you followed. You started the blog, you launched the podcast, you wrote the book. I'm going to tell the people right now, make sure that you buy the book and buy multiple copies that you can send out to other people who need to upgrade their lives. We have control, we have the opportunity, and the pandemic isn't going away. There's more changes that are coming. Take advantage of it to up level your life, and subscribe to the Morning Upgrade podcast. And I've got that highlighted in the carousel. You can subscribe right here. And then, of course, give the book and the podcast some great reviews right here on Amazon. Ryan, thank you for coming online today.
yeah, I appreciate it, Scott. It was really fun. I'm glad we did this, and thanks everyone for watching, for listening. If I could be of any help, just reach out. Ryan at morningupgrade.com.
There you go. So, and it's right there in the book, and you can get the printed version, and you get one like me that's got it's got a date that's right there in the back because it's print on demand. kdp.amazon.com for those of you who are interested in writing a book. Make sure you do that. Ryan, I'm going to send you into the green room, and then we'll wind down, and I'll be right back with you.
Great, thanks, Scott.
Hey, it's just so much fun to talk to folks like Ryan Cote, who didn't let the pandemic change his world for the worse. He decided he was going to upgrade his life, up level his life, and started this blog, the podcast. These are available. The podcast and the book are available right here in the carousel. Make sure you click on those. Take a look. You can take a look at the inside of the book and get some ideas of what's going on there. Um, the the book is easy to read. They got the chapters with your how to get started quick tips. There is chapter takeaways you can fill out for yourself here. Again, this book is something that I would recommend that you keep uh, by your desk, in your backpack, in your bag, wherever you are. Up level your life. So, thank you to our guest, Ryan Cote, for joining us here on Amazon Live. And with that, we're going to end this broadcast and say thank you to everybody who watched. And tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time, I will be talking with Deb Bunt and Peter Berry with my wife, Christine Smith, about their book. And it's all about dealing with the stories around Alzheimer's and dementia. So you'll want to join us for that tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Deb and Peter and Christine, as we talk about Walk With Me. So with that, I'm going to say, have a fabulous day. Cheers.